Hello and welcome to an exclusive webinar by ICICIdirect. I'm Samina Nalwala and joining me now is Suresh Sadgopan, founder Ladder7 Financial Advisories. Suresh, thank you very much for taking out the time to talk to our viewers today. I want to talk to you about financial planning as a whole. Given the backdrop of the recent pandemic, the spotlight on financial planning and the importance of saving optimally for a rainy day has become imperative. It's also that time of the year that everybody starts scrambling to make their investments for, of course, the financial year 2021. But I think what's more important is for us to tell our viewers that it's not about tax planning in isolation. What one really needs to do is financial planning, right?
Yeah, that's true. Like you rightly pointed out, this year has probably brought into stark relief the need for financial planning. In terms of financial planning, normally what we do is that we maintain a certain level of liquidity, because if there is an interruption in terms of income, the expenses which they may have, regular expenses, along with the EMIs, the loan servicing portion is concerned, should go uninterrupted, and we normally maintain a liquidity balance of about 3 months for most people. And assuming somebody is in business or somebody is in an industry which is prone to so volatility, like for example media, like for example let us say airline industry. Like, I mean, there are certain industries, even IT people tell me that their industry is slightly volatile. So if it's of course based on their own perception, based on that, then we adjust and we keep a certain level of liquidity. So that is as far as liquidity is concerned. Then apart from that, there are multiple contingencies which a person can be exposed to. Like for example, if a person has, let us say, parents on both sides, married person may have in-laws and parents. So if they do not have an adequate insurance of their own, many of the elderly people do not have insurance on their own. So they depend on their children for their medical related expenses. So some of us are fortunate to have medical insurance from our companies. So if that is so, then it is, I mean, we are in a good place. But a lot of us are not so fortunately placed. If we are in our own business, or if our company group insurance does not cover them, so that becomes one of the contingencies for which you need to plan for. There could be other contingencies for which we may want to plan for, like some of our clients have seen that they have maybe somebody in their relative circle. It may be as close as a sister or a brother or somebody else in the circle who may not be doing that well financially, or somebody may be in business and things like that, and because of that they may require money from time to time. So these are contingencies which can come upon a person. The timing is not known. Sometimes even the quantum is not known. Like in the case of medical contingency, the quantum is not known, timing is not known. Okay, so based on that, we will have to make an appropriate contingency provision, because otherwise, if we do not make a contingency provision, it is going to go from your overall corpus, which you are creating for number one, wealth accumulation, number two, for meeting multiple goals that you may have, which may be coming now, in future, in the medium term, long term. So normally this liquidity and contingency is very, very important from the financial planning point of view. And most of our clients did not have any problem, because we have made appropriate provisions in liquidity and contingency, and even the goal provision. So that comes in the third place. Whatever goals are coming up in the next 3 years, normally we put aside money for all those goals, primarily through the medium of non-volatile assets. Non-volatile asset typically would mean a debt-oriented or fixed income-oriented asset, like maybe an FD, like maybe a debt mutual fund, like maybe an arbitrage fund. So these kind of assets which will be available for meeting an important goal. The important goal may be a vacation. Vacation is also important. It can be children education related, some expense which you want to incur, right. Or it can be anything. I mean, it can be that you want to buy a vehicle which you have been looking forward to. So goal related provisions, if you have done, then I mean, if we have done all these things, you don't have to be worried about a pandemic, right? I mean, this is a black swan event. So this is not something that anybody knew before February of last year. We have not even heard about anything called COVID. But I mean, these kind of events have health-related black swan, but a black swan it was. Okay. And at the turn of the century, we had another black swan event, which was a terrorist activity. So from time to time, there is some event or other which is kind of disrupting us. And it's very, very important to plan our finances properly instead of randomly investing here and there. That brings me to the other point which you pointed out, which is regarding taxation. See, a lot of people get bogged down and you can say they focus too much on taxation to the exclusion of everything else. See, taxation is important because ultimately it depresses the amount of money that you are having in your pocket, I mean, that you're getting in your pocket post-tax. But I mean, we will have to be slightly more realistic and practical about the taxation aspect. While we want to optimize the investments in terms of tax incidence to the extent possible, we should also be willing to pay the taxes that are due. And I mean, we should happily be willing to pay the taxes instead of trying to duck them.
Right.
So in that context, we will talk about the tax saving options. I mean, there are tax shelters which are available, legitimate tax shelters, and there are possibly things which will fall under the umbrella of tax avoidance, which we definitely do not want to do.
Right. Right. So let's just break this down, right? For a lot of people, financial planning is equivalent to tax planning, which I think is one of the biggest mistakes one can make, which you've already highlighted for us. But also, when you talk about a financial plan, the cornerstone of any financial plan is getting your financial goals in order. So how does one align their tax saving instruments to financial goals? We'll talk about various goals in a minute, but if you can just tell us the importance of aligning tax planning with financial goals, because it is really that time of the year that people want to understand of how both of these can work together in tandem.
Yeah, so I'll step back probably slightly to explain the financial planning bit. So we will normally in financial planning we look at the financial situation of the person, the personal situation of the person and their family itself, and then we will look at what kind of goals are there in the family. It may be something to do with the children. It may be something to do with the house that they want to purchase. It may be something to do with vacation. It can be something to do with long-term planning in terms of retirement. There can be multiple goals, and there can be many other goals apart from what I just now mentioned. So what we will do for family one will not be the same for another family. Maybe on the face of it, it may look like they are in a very, very similar situation. But actually speaking, every case is actually different because the goals which each client has is going to be different. The timing of the goals and the quantum of that goal can be different. The other thing which is also different is the risk appetite. So everybody who's, let us say, 35, we cannot say that they can be aggressive. So there are persons who are inherently aggressive in their intent as far as their investments are concerned. And there are persons who are 35 or even 30 who are very, very conservative in their investment intent. So we will have to take that into account while putting together a portfolio for them. So we cannot really give a very aggressive portfolio for a conservative investor, because even assuming we know that this person can bear any volatility or any losses which show up in between, this person may not be very comfortable in terms of the volatility. And what will happen if we give this kind of a person a very volatile asset like equity is that they may panic and they may exit out of that. So essentially the financial planning which we want to do for this person may not exactly pan out the way we want to do. Right. So now why I'm saying all this is that the portfolio that we are going to create is actually a factor of a number of things which the family needs, their goals, when they want, what kind of liquidity they want, what kind of tenure for which we can invest, and their taxation itself. The person, is he or she coming in the 20% tax bracket, 30%? Are they above 50 lakhs? Are they above 1 crore? So depending on that, then we will have to choose appropriate instrument. We'll have to see, which portions of the portfolio are invested for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 20 years. So we'll have to see that. And accordingly, the taxation can be different for different asset classes. Anyway, inherently also it is different for different asset classes. And depending on the duration, it can be different. So we will have to first look at what is the goal for which we want to plan. We have to choose appropriate instruments which will help us to meet that goal. Maybe it's possible that there are 2 or 3 appropriate vehicles available, and in that context, we can choose the one that is most efficient on every front, including taxation.
Right.
So it has to be that way, not choosing the instrument which is best from the taxation point of view and somehow trying to hard fit that into the taxation thing.
So, for the sake of our viewers, and I'm assuming this would be a common goal for a lot of people, is and let's take that goal. I know it's tough to look at a single goal in isolation, but let's try and do that. Let's pick an important one. And one of the important goals for most people is buying a home. If you have to plan to buy a home in a time horizon of maybe 10 to 15 years, what is the sort of asset allocation one must look at? And under that asset allocation, what sort of instruments should one be investing in as per you?
Yeah, I mean, this is a slightly difficult question if you ask me, because you have told me about one goal. Normally, it is never that way, because even assuming you want to do something for the after 15 years, which is the home goal, there are going to be so many other goals which are going to come in the interim. So we need to plan for that. At the same time, we need to plan for the home goal. But I'm still going to answer your question as best as I can. So suppose we are isolating the amounts we require for the home, what we want to put upfront for the home. Say, for example, I'll just take an example of a home which is going to cost us 1 crore. I mean, this is just a round ballpark figure. So suppose we feel that we want to, since we have thought about that, okay, we are going to buy the home only in 10 or 15 years. So today's cost is 1 crore. 15 years later, the same home may cost you may cost about maybe 2.5 crores, 2.5 crores. Because the inflation is going to be there, right? Even the housing costs are going to increase. So then 2.5 crores, how much do we want to pay upfront? So we will have to build up that amount. Suppose we feel that we want to give something like 50% upfront, meaning 1.25 crores upfront. We will have to build that up. So now if we have a 15-year period, we potentially have time on our side, and we can invest in appropriately risky instrument with a view to maximize the investment return. So one of the risky investments is, of course, equity, which can potentially perform well over a long period of time. So yeah, for a person like that, if we are able to isolate that goal and invest for that goal only, I would, and if assuming that this person has the appropriate risk appetite, I would suggest predominant majority of the investments in equity-oriented investments. And maybe to cushion the portfolio, I may suggest maybe 30-35% in other investments. It may be mostly fixed income oriented investments. So that is what I would broadly suggest.
Right, Suresh, as you get closer to the time of, relieving that goal, or of course, that goal becoming a reality, would you then move a large part of your equity into debt? Because I guess as you get closer, your risk appetite also would reduce, right?
Absolutely. So, I mean, very right in asking that question, because see, if we see a goal 5 years down the line, and we are planning for that goal, to start with, possibly some portion of that, some portion we have allocated for meeting that goal can be in equity. Okay, but closer to that goal, I mean, if we continue to have it in equity as a market is very volatile. It can be up, it can be down, it can be anywhere. So if it is a very important goal, like say you want to, fund the child's education, let us say that is 5 years away. So child's education is something that, it's a hard date which is coming up after 5 years. It is not even like a vehicle, or it is not even like a house. Okay, where you can push it back by maybe a year or two. In the case of children's education, it is you have to be right. Okay, if it is June 2025, it has to be June 2025, because that is the time when your child is completing and the child is ready for graduation, for example. So it is imperative that we liquidate whatever assets we have, maybe land, maybe equity, 2 to 3 years in advance, and move it into comparatively safer investments. So some of the clients, when we talk about this, they say, equity is performing well. Why do you want me to break something which is giving 14% and put that into something where I'm after tax, I'm going to get maybe 5.5%? It doesn't make any sense. But what we are focused on, what we need to be focused on is the goal. not so much the investment return. So this is something very, very hard for a lot of people to understand. But this is the fundamental thing as far as financial planning is concerned. We are not focused too much on the returns. We are focused on meeting the goals come what may. So that is the important thing that I want viewers to get.
Right. So, Suresh, if you're making an investment for that sort of a long-term goal, and if the asset class that you've chosen is equity, are there any tax-saving instruments under equity that one can, invest in and hence utilize that?
Yeah. So one of the investment that is coming under taxation is, of course, the tax-saving mutual fund or equity-linked savings scheme under mutual funds. I think viewers will be mostly aware about this particular aspect. Up to 1.5 lakhs in Section 80C, one can invest in ELSS funds. So apart from that, something which is equity oriented, which is also coming under 80C, is a NPS. NPS also 50% you can invest in equity. Under certain circumstances, you can invest even up to 75% in equity for people who are in the earlier ages. Okay, who are young. So these are two available under the Section 80C up to 1.5. Additionally, if somebody wants to save another 50,000 extra, NPS gives you the option of saving another 50,000 outside of this 80C, which can also be equity oriented under Section 80 CCD 1B. So another 50,000 one can potentially save. So these things are available for anybody to consider tax savings if they want an equity allocation.
Right. Suresh, before we got into this conversation, you mentioned a very valid point saying that sometimes it might be better to pay tax financially than to, of course, scramble to look and invest in instruments that may help you save tax, but you might land up not aligning your goals, and in worst, might even have to borrow money to do that.
Yeah, Samina, so that's exactly what happens with a lot of people. So they are in January or February or March like this, and they don't have seem to have the money because the company has started cutting their salaries also. So they want to save that tax, so they borrow money from here and there. Some people have actually borrowed money from using a personal loan. I know of such situations in the past. So just to save tax, I mean, it should not become an obsession. Tax saving should not become an obsession. If you are able to comfortably save tax, and again, let me reiterate, I mean, if the investment is such that it is aligning with a broader goal that you have, along with saving taxes, you do that. If you are not able to do comfortably that investment, I would suggest that you pay the tax. I mean, it's fine to pay the tax. The more important thing that I would want to say is that, I mean, last minute scrambling does not help anybody. When it comes to April, from day one, we have to start planning for our tax saving investments if we really want to put it that way. I would not want to call any investment as a tax saving investment. I would call any investment as an investment with a tax saving potential. Okay.
Right.
So so it should be started from day one. It should be part and parcel of our overall financial planning process itself. It should not be an afterthought which comes to us in the month of February or March.
Right. Suresh, in fact, if you start on day one, you can also take advantage of the power of compounding, another very important cornerstone of financial planning. I only have a minute or so, but if you can just tell our viewers about the magic of the power of compounding, and also why one must not get into those insurance products without adequate research. Again, this was drawing so much attention in the last decade, and I'd like you to just very quickly tell our viewers of why research is important if you go ahead and invest in ULIPs or any other insurance products.
Yeah. So what happens when we keep the investment for the tax saving to the last is that we are only interested in getting that investment proof to give it to our HR department or admin department. We don't care where it comes from, whether it's from an insurance product, whether it's from an investment product. We are not really bothered about that. So when we keep it for the last, we don't really look into what are the features or benefits of the product, whether we have to pay for that product year on year. We also don't keep an eye on that, and we tend to get into the wrong kind of product. So if we start investing right from the beginning, let us assume that we don't have the money to invest on day one. but we start maybe monthly regular investments of maybe say 8,000 or 9,000 or something like that, so that at the end of the year, most of the investments are taken care of, because most of you may also be in service. So in service, you also have employee provident fund that also comes under ATC. So it is only for the balance amount that you need to invest. So what happens in this process, if you start from day one, like Samina mentioned, you start earning an interest on every single investment that you make. You make something in April, something in May. So it may be a small amount to start with. But the beautiful thing about that 8,000 you have invested in 2021 is that when you look at it in 2041, it has compounded probably 20 times. Okay, 8,000 is no longer 8,000; it is probably a lakh of rupees, or probably 1.25 lakh. That same 8,000. So if the same 8,000 rupees which you are putting aside every month, month on month, April, May, June, so it will run into lakhs and crores. It may look like a very, very small amount today, but it may run into lakhs and crores. So that is the very, very important thing. Another one important point I want to point out to our viewers is that a lot of people, to save tax, they have some investment which has been done in the past that is coming out, like they say ELSS investment. After 3 years, you can take out the money. You're taking out the money and again putting it in ELSS. So that is recycling. That will not work. That will not help you to compound the investment and get returns. So what you should actually, so that is precisely my point. Investment should be for investment's sake, not from the point of view of tax saving. So you're doing something from the investment point of view. So from that point of view, keep putting money, keep saving tax, start from day one, invest regularly, utilize the power of compounding to help you to take care of your investments, to take care of your goals and tax savings.
Right. Thanks a ton for that, Suresh. So I think that is the key takeaway this evening. It's not about tax planning. It's about financial planning and aligning your goals to tax planning. If in some cases, it might be better to pay your taxes rather than sort of evade them, because that may not eventually or actually work out in the future. So it's all about being wise and starting today and planning for the future. Thanks a ton, Suresh. Great having you on the show.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was good.
Thank you, Monica.
Thank you. Thanks, Monica.
Thanks, Suresh. Great talking
Thanks a lot.
to you. Bye.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, bye.